Okay, we're down to 2 presentations left, and I'm going to introduce Carolyn Lusch Yichun Ding from University of Michigan, and they're going to talk to you about the transit investment on SEMCOG's executive committee. And before you start, unfortunately I have to inform you that there's a non-commissioned judge in the audience from SEMCOGs. Hopefully you can bounce ideas off. And,
Excellent. All right, we all set? Okay. So as was mentioned, my name is Carolyn and this is Yichun, and we are from University of Michigan Urban and Regional Planning Department. And we are going to be talking about a very interesting unit of analysis here, which is SEMCOG's Executive Committee home jurisdictions. So for those of you who don't know, who are not on SEMCOG, it's the Southeastern Michigan Council of Governments. It is a metropolitan planning organization that does most of the planning for transportation projects in this 7-county area in Southeast Michigan. It does have voluntary membership, so you do not have to be part of it. And it has an executive committee that is in charge of a lot of decision making that is internally elected from the SEMCOG membership. So the reason that we decided to study this, as you might know, Southeast Michigan has pretty bad transportation, public transportation in particular. And executive committee members have a lot of power in the process of distributing money and making things happen in terms of transportation. SEMCOG distributes federal funds to all the various transportation agencies. And executive committee members are elected officials from these various jurisdictions. And so, just by the nature of being an elected official, they are primarily accountable to their home electorates in the municipalities that they're from. So we want to use some factors to try to assess what we call the transit investment of these particular municipalities that the executive committee members are from, and see if that investment tends to be lower or higher. We're not claiming any causation here, but it's sort of a way to start looking at this and think maybe that investment or lack of investment is one factor in why we have such terrible public transit in our region. One important thing to note is that we did this study last year, and the executive committee members are elected every year, so they're actually different now from different municipalities than what we're showing here. So just keep in mind, this is current as of fall 2014. Some of the factors that we're going to be using involve the SMART system of transit, the Suburban Mobility Authority for Regional Transit, which primarily serves the suburbs around Detroit in Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb counties. It also has some routes that go into Detroit, but only at very limited times. And SMART also has voluntary membership. So even if you are a municipality that is right between 2 municipalities with a bus line, you do not have to pay for that bus service, and you do not have to get bus service. So that causes some problems. Yeah, all right. So, this is our research question. How do communities represented on the current, except fall 2014, SEMCOG Executive Committee rank on factors affecting investment in transit? So the factors that we used are participation in SMART, and for those that are participating, the frequency of those SMART lines. And then we did a transit dependency index, and we also did a transit choice index. We have a few different limitations. As you said, this is a moment in time analysis, so it can't be generalized really to any other point in time. We had to simplify things for our frequency measurement because it was a lot of data to work through, so we used a specific time of the day to measure frequency. And also we had to make some decisions on choice and weighting of our index factors, and we tried to do that based on literature, but it's imperfect. So here are our methods. You can just see in terms of finding out the participation in SMART, we went on the SMART website and we just found out what are all the ones that participate, and we joined that to spatial data, and then we symbolize it. It's pretty simple. The frequency of the SMART lines is pretty time intensive to do. We downloaded the schedules for the SMART lines in all of the communities we were looking at, and we chose to do afternoon rush hour, and so we went through and we calculated all of the headways, and then we found the average for those headways, and then we joined that to the spatial data up the lines, and we symbolized those in thickness based on frequency, which you'll see shortly. And then for our two indices, the dependency index and the choice index, we determined our variable and then collected demographic data from the most recent American Community Survey. And then we joined that to spatial data, we normalized the variables, and we symbolized those based on performance at the census tract level. So now we will see some of those. So these are our results for SMART participation. So the red ones do not participate in the SMART bus service. The green ones do participate. And the little people are the number of representatives that municipality has on SEMCOG's executive committee. Because Detroit, I would say, has 10. Some of them only have 1, so you can see that here. You'll notice that Macomb County here is all green. So Macomb actually opted into SMART as a county, so it didn't give the municipalities the choice. Although some of these up here only get, they don't get fixed route service, they only get demand response service. So we can see here that a very large swath, especially in Wayne County and Oakland County, of these representatives are from communities that do not participate in SMART. And of course, some of these outlying counties don't have the option to participate in SMART. They're not part of the service area. So, Washoe County has their own AAATA, and these don't have any regional systems. So that is participation. This is our SMART frequency map. So we only map to this for the municipalities that do participate in SMART that we are looking at for the executive committee. So the red ones that you see on this map, still they are sort of in that area, but they don't participate in SMART. And again, Detroit gets some service, but is not technically in SMART. So you can see that a couple of these, the line runs right through them, but it's closed door service. It doesn't pick up anyone. You can see that we have a lot of really, really infrequent service. These lines up here, they're kind of hard to see. They're so infrequent, and that is between 45-minute and an hour headway, rush hour weekdays afternoon. So it's pretty infrequent. These on the east side over here, those are half hour to 45 minutes, so still pretty infrequent if you're in rush hour. And the only ones that are pretty frequent up here are our Woodward and our Gratiot lines, which are between like 10 and 15-minute headways. So those ones are pretty good. But you see that a lot of these communities are not being served by a lot of service, very frequent service. And now Yichun is going to talk about our indices.
So we have two indexes. So the first one, we got the transit dependency index, incorporating variables including the rate of population with no vehicle ownership, and the elderly and youth population, which is over 65 and under 18. And we subtract the the rate of the municipalities in median household income to the counties, and from 1, and in order to show its reverse relationship with the transit dependency. And so then we add them together to get the index. So the map shows that we have 3 darker areas in general. The first one is Detroit, and it may majorly due to the low median household income in Detroit and the high rate of population without a car or other vehicles, and the Waterford and Port Huron. And these two may be because of their large number of the elderly people or children. So in general, we can see that all these municipalities, they don't have very high values of the index. So this indicates that the municipalities, they are not very high, greatly invested in transit. So the second one is Transit Choice Index, which means the likelihood of non-transit dependent riders choosing transit options. We incorporate the population density per square mile and the millennial population between 18 to 35, and the labor force rate, which means that the rate of population over 16 who are in employment. And finally, the means of transportation to work, which means the people who work by bus, by carpool or bike, they can be treated as a potential transit riders. So the results show, this map shows that we still have 3 relatively higher values, and the first Detroit, it may be because of the large number of transit riders, and the Ann Arbor, it's obvious that the high millennial population because of the University of Michigan. And there is one census tract in the Rochester Hills, which has a very high value. We thought it was because they're very high, they are very light colors. So we can say that the municipalities are not very highly invested in transit. So here we come to our conclusion and implications. So the municipalities represented by SEMCOG, they did not display a very high investment in transit. So moving towards better transit may require the leaders to be more invested in transit. The elected leaders, they can be influenced by the concerns of their constituents, and so in this way, the low investment in these communities can lead to very poor transit decisions, and the changing the executive committee makeup. It would also be helpful to reflect the true population of these municipalities, and also the growing influence of young people and elderly people, according to our results, cannot be overlooked. So in terms of this, we would make some recommendations. We say that we recommend a push for greater transparency and accountability to more widely study the SEMCOG's decision-making process. We found that there is still some room for increased oversight and accountability. Also, public will need more knowledge of the committee's selections process and their powers. Finally, the public participation push would also be helpful to achieve these goals.
Mm-hmm. And one final thing I wanted to mention, going off of accountability, we relied a lot on Myron Orfield in making this study, the great regionalist from Minnesota, who in his research makes a suggestion of electing or appointing executive committees or committee members in some other way that makes them accountable to the entire region rather than just their municipality. So that would be an important recommendation under the accountability section there. And that is it. Yeah. Yes.
Some comments and some questions?
Sure.
I live in this area.
Yeah.
And I regularly hear horror stories from my students who are trying to use the smart bus to come to U of M Dearborn.
Yeah.
So this is my background.
For sure.
I'm wondering why you chose executive committee members who are only in office for 1 year. Because what you're looking at here is obviously things that take years in the making.
Yeah.
Also, my understanding is that it's not the executive committee members that are choosing whether or not a community opts in or out, it's elected, or the people vote on it.
Yes.
And so, and finally, my other question is, I think it would be very helpful to have these maps of transit dependency and choice index for the entire region, because now, especially in the aftermath of this highly publicized story of the commuter with the 22-mile commute, I think this might actually help move the discussion in the right direction.
Sure. Yeah, to answer the executive committee question, we do think that the executive committee has a lot of power, even though they're only there for 1 year, because they can really move the direction of where the SEMCOG is going, what they vote on. And the person from SEMCOG, please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I have heard. And decisions that get made in that time period, you know, like, are we going to expand I-94? Like, yes, you vote on it, and then, you know, it's hard to reverse. It really makes a difference. It just
the executive committee can make a recommendation, but that to expand I-94 is something that was in the works for years and years and years. It was actually voted on by the TCC, the Transportation Committee, not the executive committee. People that are on the executive committee, you know, SEMCOG is a volunteer organization, and when you join SEMCOG, you are appointed, you have to appoint as a community an alternate and a delegate to the General Assembly.
Yep.
From that General Assembly, there's blocks for cities, villages, townships. The members of that block, so all, for counties for instance, all counties vote for who they want on the executive committee.
Yes.
So it's a vote more or less by their peers, and it's a vote based on who is, you know, who is active in the General Assembly, who comes to the meetings, who is active at SEMCOG. We can't appoint someone to the exec. Their peers are not going to appoint someone to the executive committee that never comes to meetings or is not there. So the voting for the executive committee is by their own peers in that block.
Certainly, yes. And you know, as we said, we're not claiming any causation here, but we just think this is a good start of analysis to start looking at these issues of representation that people have not been looking at, and people have not been looking closely at, you know, how SEMCOG makes decisions, and they make very, very important decisions that have, you know, long-lasting implications for our region.
And I think your overall, you know, analysis is good, but I think instead of choosing the executive committee, you probably should have chosen membership in SEMCOG. Communities that have chosen to be a member of SEMCOG, what their investment in transit is versus, you know, it's the actual community that belongs to SEMCOG. It's not a person, you know, on the executive committee, if you know what I'm talking about.
And yes, that surely, especially that would have widened the number of communities considerably. So as this was just a semester project, perhaps if we had more time. Yeah.
I have a question for the SEMCOG. What is the relationship officially between SMART and SEMCOG?
There's really, I'm not part of the transportation department, I'm in the data analysis, but in order for a project to get, I guess there's a difference between transit and then there's the difference between road projects. So with SMART, we really don't have, we really don't have a relationship with SMART.
Your transportation responsibilities relate strictly to roads.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was under the impression that SEMCOG also funnels federal money.
We do. You are correct. We are in charge of, and like I said, this is not my expertise, so I apologize. We are in charge of, you know, the SMART and DDOT get a portion of federal money to help run their program. SEMCOG is in charge of divvying up that money based on program needs and some other factors that I'm not aware of. So we are in charge of taking the federal piece of money and assigning it to either SMART or DDOT.
Yes.
And to our wonderful presenters, are you suggesting that more dollars, investments from the local communities are a positive thing that's underfunded in this region?
That is one possible implication, that perhaps if the executive committee member communities did have a stronger investment in transit, that they would feel that they need to invest more money in the transit system.
Okay, and you've got, I don't know, I was born and raised in Detroit. My feeling towards what they've done, including their transportation system, including regionally, is Detroit's really gotten what they elected, and they suffer from that.
Are you speaking of the city or the region?
Wayne County and the city of Detroit, because you're going to have the FBI investigate the executive's office. So I wouldn't give increased money to either group. And some of the transportation ideas have been floated about up Woodward Avenue in Detroit, about a rail that would go all the way to 8 Mile.
It's already being built.
It's already started.
Right, but they've talked about going all the way to 8 Mile, and the price tag on that was over $400 million. Anybody who had a pulse, a brain, a vote would not find that to be the highest priority in the city of Detroit for $500 million.
Oh, that was federal law.
Oh, so we should just waste it. So
I'm saying
there is a rail system parallel to that east of Woodward right now, and they are really going to tear up Woodward. Some of the ideas towards transportation in southeastern Michigan are such a waste of taxpayer dollars. This stuff drives me crazy. And I'm happy that the city I live in pulled out of SMART.
All right, so that is a personal opinion, but I don't think it actually is relevant to our results here. Yes.
I just wanted to comment that I think when your presentation has hit so many nerves, I think it's a great presentation. It brings up a lot of questions.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right, great, thank you, Carolyn.